It is 6 o'clock, and I call the Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024 City Commission meeting to order. Please hold the roll.
Mayor Hassel.
Here.
Commissioner Butler.
Here.
Commissioner Motta.
Here.
Commissioner Morse.
Present.
Mayor, we have 4 commissioners present. The quorum of 3 is met.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have got one proclamation this evening for Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. Suzanne and Kevin, come on up. Hello, hello. Good. All right, I'll go ahead and read it here quick. There we go. All right. Whereas January 15th, 2024 marks the observance of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Federal Holiday and Service Day, established by Public Law Number 98-144 in 1983. And whereas the King Holiday and Service Act highlights remembrance and celebration and encourages people everywhere to reflect on the principles of nonviolent social change, racial equality, community and humanitarian service, and interracial cooperation. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union. And whereas celebrating Dr. King's life and spirit through community-wide recognitions and service on the King holiday is an appropriate way to honor Dr. King, bringing our citizens together and strengthening our communities and nation. And whereas it is appropriate for the City of Manhattan to support a community celebration in observance of the King holiday and day of service honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, whereas each one of us can and must contribute to making our communities better with increased opportunity for all citizens. So therefore, I, Mark Hattasall, the Mayor of the City of Manhattan, Kansas, do hereby proclaim January 13th and 20th, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Community Service and Day of Celebration in Manhattan, Kansas, and urge all people to join and pay tribute to the life and works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and apply his life principles and teachings of service to inspire others to serve and remember his spirit of the community. I'd like to say a few words. Hey, you're here too now. You guys can say.
It's an honor to be up here and receive the Martin Luther King Proclamation. The important part is it's the city's connection. It's one of those bonds that should never be broken. This year we're working in cooperation with the MAC, so we're going to have a fantastic display. Dr. Janella Holmes is going to be our speaker. We have quilters from all over, and Ronna Tyson will be there. And if you haven't seen Ronna Tyson's quilt, it's a must-see, and get it signed. I'm going to forward over to my Teresa, who is one of our coordinators.
Yeah, I have to read. I don't have a lot to say. Y'all know I just had radiation, so I'm just trying to see if I get superpowers before, it's Martin Luther King Day. But seriously, you guys, once again, it's a day of service. That whole week, there's going to be activities, so make sure you guys are checking your calendars, coming out, supporting, and participating, because this is truly a community effort here, and so we can't make a successful week without you guys. And so we hope that you guys will all come out and support, and we appreciate you. Thanks.
Got time? Okay, I just want to let everybody know that, as usual, we have the art and writing contest that is part of this program as well. Lots of kids have participated. The artwork is pretty darn amazing. So like Kevin said, we'll be at MAC this year at the Art Center for the celebration on the 13th. The kids' artwork will be on display. The exhibit at MAC coincides with this event. It's called Beyond the Fiber and the Thread. The artists are local and regional. And the theme for the contest, I forgot to say, was, as usual, a quote from Dr. King, and in this case it was, "The time is always ripe to do right." So come see what the kids made of that. Hope to see you there. On the 20th, the 13th is the community celebration at MAC. On the 20th is the day of service. check the Facebook page or whatever it's called these days. What is it called now? No, I know, but Facebook isn't Facebook anymore. Whatever it is, check the MLK committee. Whatever, y'all know what it is. Check that, because all the updates will be there, and come see us. All right, thanks.
Since this is the first legislative meeting of the month, we will have a chance for public comments. These are comments on items that are not on the agenda for this evening. The commission will not discuss or debate these items or make any decisions based on these discussion items, but you'll have up to 5 minutes to talk about anything that's not on the agenda for this evening. Gary signed up, so if you want to come up first, Gary, then after that, anyone else who would like to comment on something that is not on this evening's agenda. Please state your name and then sign it. Oh, you're going to sign in, so please state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Gary Oles. I live at 3308 Frontier Circle. I just thought this was an appropriate opportunity, the first meeting of the year, to take a moment as one citizen, and hopefully I'm representing the hearts of numerous citizens in Manhattan, to thank you as commissioners for the time that you've given. As commissioners, Mark, Linda, you've put in a lot of hours, had a lot of brain matter moving quickly to try to figure out everything that you could on behalf of the citizens. And that's another reminder that is actually addressed to the new commission, but since I don't have that opportunity, I'll do that because I know part of them are behind me, is I just want to remind everyone and the commissioners that as what most people would call leaders in our community, as elected officials, as you know, you represent the people. You don't represent your interest. You don't represent a special interest. You represent the people as best you can, based on the information you have. Certainly you have leanings, everyone does, or biases. And I just want to take a moment and just remind everybody that any time that you want to email a commissioner, don't hesitate or call, because these commissioners represent us as not only taxpayers, but citizens or voters here in the area, or in the community. And it's important that the citizens keep that in mind. If I had to look back on the last 12 months, I'm probably one of the few consistent people that get up here and make comments. And I do that on purpose because I'd like to encourage others to get up here. I also would like the new commission to consider changing the format so that citizens have more than just 12 opportunities to address you publicly. I realize that you get emails and you get phone calls, so people are talking to you. But this is the platform, the soapbox, so to speak, for citizens to step up and talk about agenda items when it's appropriate, but general comments at this point in time. I do want to thank you for allowing citizens to comment on whatever's on the general agenda when you're discussing it. That's really, to me, very, very good, very good. I'm also active in Junction City, as you know, and I have to be honest with you, I wish they were a little more open to conversation in that format as you have, as you do it here. Lastly, in the time that I have, and I won't use up all 5 minutes, Ron, I've known you for many, 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 many years. I couldn't tell you how many, but I just want to thank you for all the things that you've done for Manhattan in the time you've served. I remember long ago, starting out when you said Parks and Rec, a long time ago, and we just thank you for all that you've done. You haven't always been popular, but you also haven't always been unpopular. So there's a balance there, and you've done your best, and that's all that any citizen can ask. We're never all going to be like-minded, but so long as we can have conversations, as long as we can talk about issues with staff as well as we have with you, that's the right thing. And it's never too late to do the right thing, or whatever the motto was just a minute ago. Always right. Thank you. So as I close this out, it's a heartfelt thanks. I'm not elected by anybody, so I don't represent anybody, but I'm pretty sure that There would be a line behind me had people thought about coming up and taking time out of their busy evening and just say thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Would anybody else care to comment on something that's not on the agenda for this evening? Please come forward, state your name, and also sign in there.
Good evening. My name is Julie Govert-Walter. I live at 831 Pierre Street in Manhattan, right here. And I wanted to echo, really, Gary said it so well, the tribute to those of you, Mayor Mark, Linda, for the work that you've invested in our community. I think that there's a lot of people who would have wanted to be here tonight to say thanks, but I just want to let you know what you do, what you've done, and of course, those of you who remain commissioners, what you continue to do is very important for the success of our community and the decisions that you make. I think all of us realize are important, but I don't think all of us realize how challenging it is to do the right thing for governance. And to Linda, I want to express particular appreciation. You've been working in the public service arena for 8 years. And going to all those meetings and keeping up with what's going on with one commission after another has always been amazing to me, how you not only can get to all those meetings, but you remember what the big issues are and what's being said.
I write it down.
Yeah, well, whatever your plan is,
Can't
I just
remember.
want to give you a special shout out.
you.
And even though there's retirement here, as we say at the area agency, based on the Lion King, there's always more in the world than can ever be done. So I want to say thanks. And Ron, thank you for your service to our community too. And I wish you well in your future endeavors, and thank you for your service. And I will write my name and address now down, and that, I just want to say thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Julie. If anybody else would care to comment, we've always got time to hear good things, so please feel free to step forward. All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up the general public comments and move on to commissioner comments.
Oh,
Yeah, you'll have time later, too.
later, okay. Just that it's been a busy season. I appreciate all of you being here. Imagine on January 2nd. Thank you for coming. It's important.
John, you got anything? Win? Okay. All right, we will close commissioner comments and move on to the old business consent agenda. These are items of a routine or housekeeping nature or things that have been previously reviewed by the commission. The commissioner may request an item be removed in separate discussion and considered immediately following this consent agenda. We will have a chance for the public to comment on these items. Commissioners, are there any questions about any of the old business consent agenda?
No.
All right, we have new business consent agenda, which the new commission will uptake. So does anybody have any questions or comments? You can have up to 5 minutes to talk on anything like approving the minutes of the last meeting, paying some bills, various things like that. City University Special Projects Agreement, does that interest anybody? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comments on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Commissioner Morse,
Yes.
Mayor Hassel.
Yes.
Motion carried, 4-0.
All right, we will move into the first steps of the reorganization and begin with comments from outgoing Commissioner and former Mayor Linda.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being included. I want to be sure to just speak a bit about serving as a commissioner. I really think of myself as a citizen who has stepped forward to serve the public for a short period of time. In this case, it was almost 9 years. So, but it's been a privilege and a pleasure to serve as a city commissioner and mayor twice. I have so appreciated the confidence and support that the public has extended to me. I felt like when I was first elected, I was just lifted up. I couldn't imagine. It was, you know, when you put yourself out there and you declare that you're going to run, it's trepidation that you do that, and you have to be, you know, suck it up and be brave. And then to be elected is just a rewarding thing. I was first elected in April of 2015. After almost 9 years, it's time for me to transition off, just as the commissioners have in the past. While some are negative and critical, I am proud of our community. Our city is attractive and forward-thinking. I hope you all think that way too. We are like a family and siblings. We argue, we pull back and forth, but eventually we come up with what's the best for our community, and we have a wonderful community. When I'm mayor, I am just so excited to hear people at the conferences where I do a welcome, or people I run into that don't even know I'm a commissioner, speak about Manhattan and why they wanted to move here from wherever they are, Clay Center or Western Kansas. They love our community, and I want to make sure that we keep making our community that desirable place that people want to come. These are a couple of highlights of the years I've been in office. We added 5 words to the existing non-discrimination ordinance to make things more fair for all of our citizens. We finally are completing the North Campus corridor later this year. Yay. That has been such an expensive project, year after year after year. Replacement of the airport runway. We were lucky. I'm sure I did, but the city administration pieced the money together for the airport runway with all the sources and reconstructing the levee, and I have to pay tribute to the administration, your mastery of finding money from for these kinds of federal projects. Reconstructing the levee itself is a major undertaking. Buying out several flooded homes each year so that they are never going to be flooded again and the people will be safe. I am especially pleased that we've been able to appoint more women and people of color to the boards here in the community. When I first came, we had overwhelmingly all-white male on a lot of our boards, and so that's changing slowly. I have just thank you to so many people. Thank you to the city manager, Ron Fear, and the city administration team, and city employees. I know they have made do with budget shortages and covered for other employees, and there have been sometimes too few employees, and especially in recent years with COVID. Ron, as I enter my second retirement, I wish you well in yours. I know we'll have another opportunity in April when you officially retire, but and thank you to the commissioners I've served with, including Yusha Reddy and Karen McCullough, who were here when I first came. I'm enthusiastic about the newly elected commissioners. I'm proud of our community and proud that we continue to elect women to leadership positions. It's extremely important to elect women and people of color to achieve a balanced representation here in the community, so we're all represented and not just part of us. To all of you, I just say thank you very much.
I haven't, haven't had much to say during the commissioner comments period over the last few years, so I'm reclaiming all of that time right now. So I want to thank the community for the opportunity to serve on the commission, and especially the honor of serving as mayor this past year. It has been a distinct pleasure for me to represent the city at welcomes, ribbon cuttings, and groundbreakings, and to have the chance to say a few words at the NBAF dedication. I'm proud of the work that the commission has done over the past few years, and I think we have set the table for a great economic harvest in the years to come. I'd first like to thank my wife Pamela for all of her love and support over the past 4 years and the whole 33 years we've been together, a constant source of encouragement, and she has been a safe haven during the rough times. Please join me in acknowledging her. I'd also like to thank the city staff, which has been very gracious to me. Ron and his leadership team, Brenda, Lauren, and Chelsea, and all of the department heads who have been so knowledgeable and quick to respond. Sure do miss Rob Otto. I also want to acknowledge Shu at the zoo and Susan and her team at the Discovery Center. Both have been so helpful and a pleasure to interact with. With the Museum of Art and Light bringing thousands of students to visit each year, the Discovery Center will only grow in popularity and impact. While the past 4 years have gone by very quickly, this past year has gone way too fast. The dedication of NBAF was definitely the highlight for me, but also celebrating the opening of the OT, the Joint Maintenance Facility, celebrating the new Aggieville sign and kind of the temporary end of construction there. And then also the new Stonehaven Park and Byer Pond are going to be great additions to the community. The Museum of Art and Light will be an awesome addition to the community, along with the Midtown and Aggieville-related projects. We have also helped facilitate the Wareham Hall project, which I think is going to be the coolest thing ever. And we have gotten off the ground with the Seco Park Ball Fields project after waiting on that for several years. The levee improvements are going about as well as any Corps of Engineer project can. So the inconvenience of the airport closure has already been forgotten, as they have been overwhelmed by the increased usage since it reopened. So many projects are cursed for their inconvenience, but are quickly forgotten, but the discomfort is quickly forgotten when that project is completed and we can enjoy something that is new and nicer. I'm going to pass along some unsolicited advice to the new commissioners, which you can take or leave, but the first thing I had to learn was that there's two sides to every story. I've been slow to learn this. Several times over the years, I've made the mistake of hearing someone's story about a situation with the city and then overreacted to it, to their version of the events. This has led to apologies on my part, as once I learned the other side of the story, and so I would like to have you express some patience sometimes when you hear something that sounds outlandish. It's going to be really cool to hear the other side, because a lot of times there's a big difference. Secondly, what is best for the community is not always what's best for any individual. All we can do is make it as right as possible to those who have been adversely affected. Most people's concerns and fears never manifest themselves, and most arguments are based on insufficient or incorrect information. This is especially true in the age of social media, when wrong information and exciting information will spread very quickly. Thirdly, I would encourage you to take advantage of as many as possible the many opportunities afforded you as you are a commissioner. My favorite extracurricular events have been the opportunities to spend time with the Big Red One leadership. Some of the finest people you will ever meet are the generals, colonels, and command sergeants major who pass through Fort Riley. Last advice, keep a long-term vision. Long-term goals always conflict with short-term goals. I'd like to lose 10 pounds, but I also plan on eating a pizza when I get home. We need to fix the water lines in Aggieville, but nobody wants to close and tear up Morrow Street. You can't complain about terrible streets and then turn around and complain that the streets are closed for repair. Nobody wanted to use eminent domain to accumulate the land for the downtown redevelopment projects, but looking back, we can now agree that that whole process was worth it. Everybody resists change, and our responsibility as commissioners is to help the community to see what can be and to say yes to the ideas that will benefit everyone in the long term, despite the short-term discomfort. I was on the commission for the downtown redevelopment and now again with the Aggieville redevelopment. Despite concerns from the public, we were right back then on the downtown projects, and I am completely confident in the current Aggieville projects planned. For a small-town Kansas kid who grew up thinking Manhattan was about the coolest place around, the chance to be mayor of that great city has been the highlight of my life. I have nothing but joy, gratitude, and appreciation for this opportunity. I know not everybody's going to feel that strongly about it, but when I went to the mayor's conference, League of Kansas municipality meetings, and I've traveled to other places with the Chiropractic Association around the state, being mayor of Manhattan is kind of a big deal in large areas of the state. This community is loved and adored across Kansas, and I've loved every minute I've been able to represent it. The people I've met, the friendships I've been able to develop, and the places I've been able to go are all things that I never would have had a chance to do if it wasn't for my time on the commission. I have nothing but good thoughts and fond memories from my time on the commission. For me, this has been the opportunity of a lifetime. Thank you so much. Brenda's up next.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask the newly elected commissioners to come forward and meet me in front of the commission table. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear. That I will support. The Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the State of Kansas. And the Code of Ordinances of the City of Manhattan, Kansas. And faithfully discharge the duties of City Commissioner for the City of Manhattan. So help me God. Welcome and congratulations.
Who? What's next? Me?
I'm in retirement.
I am. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, nomination of, what, tell me when to come down there.
Yeah, you got it.
Now?
You get that chair. There's a... What's that?
Did you get it nice and warm for me?
Yeah, I think. Sometimes it gets cold in here while we put the carpets over the top. Summer, you come home with air conditioning, you freeze to death in here.
Probably Karen and Susie.
I got an uneven bottle of water there, see? The Leaning Tower.
I would like to ask the commission for nomination for mayor.
I move that Commissioner Wynn Butler be appointed to serve as mayor until the first working Tuesday of January 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing no other nominations for mayor, I will now call the roll. Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Let me turn that back on. I'd like to ask the commission for nominations for Mayor Pro Tem.
I move that Commissioner Susan Adamczyk be appointed to serve as Mayor Pro Tem until the first working Tuesday of January 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing no other nominations for Mayor Pro Tem, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamczyk.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, I guess at this point, we're going to recognize the outgoing Mayor Adazal and Commissioner Morris, who's still there. Yeah, all packaging is difficult. All right, Linda, there's a nice plaque. You probably have several.
Several,
Whole,
yes.
whole room full of them, and it's been a pleasure to serve with you for 8 years.
Well, you too. Thank you.
And we have a little something else for
Oh,
you.
good. Great.
New to the collections.
Oh,
We've got a,
oh,
maybe,
Maybe.
City of Manhattan candy dish,
Oh.
and it's got your dates of service on it.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So remember us. Thank you for all your service.
thank
We
you
appreciate it very much.
I might use paper clips.
Get a box. And I guess, Mark,
Mark, come on up.
get the traditional little mallet there, as usual, and appreciate the time you served on the commission, but you've been here, as you mentioned in your speech, for two of the tough ones, the Midtown redevelopment and the other big one when your first term on the commission, and those were some of the toughest votes yet. So I appreciate the effort you put into that. Thank you very much.
Very good. And Mark, it's become a tradition to put a collection of pictures together over your term as mayor. And as you mentioned in your remarks, you've had a lot of opportunity to cut some great ribbons, and we stuck an Arbor Day ceremony in there because the mayor participated in that. But hopefully this will bring back some great memories for you for your term. And thank you so much for your service and for taking the time to make all these events and all the comments that you made and all the others as well. It's a big effort. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And the nice part has the welcome to.
Always have that.
Pamela.
There we go.
I like that, the welcome to.
Yeah.
That's long gone now.
Oops. There we go.
He's breaking the thing.
So we know there's another big sacrifice that family members make, and especially spouses, for elected officials during their time. So just a small token of our appreciation and a candy dish as well. So thank you so much for all you've done.
Yeah, we'll see, Mark. Okay, and I guess next on the agenda, I'm supposed to provide remarks for the upcoming years, but I learned one thing from Mayor Hattasol, and that is, we don't need to have long speeches. So I've got 3 simple comments. The biggest challenge we've got for next year is, of course, Ron is going to retire in April, and so the commission's got to pick a very good replacement. And that's probably the most important thing that's going to happen. The second thing for me is I want to see the mill levy come down a little bit lower than it was last year. And I think, Gary Olds for sure will appreciate that because he comes to talk about it every meeting. And then the last thing is, in order to get anything done in the city, it takes 3 votes. And so we're going to do the best we can to reach consensus on all the various things that come before the commission. And as Ron mentioned this morning on the radio, that pretty much happens most of the time here. So on that note, we'll move on to the next big item, which is new business on the consent agenda. So items on the consent agenda are those of routine and housekeeping nature, or those items which have previously been reviewed by the City Commission and may be approved on one motion. A commissioner may request an item be removed for separate discussion considered immediately following the consent agenda. And we also take public comments. So are there any public comments on the new business consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll take commissioner comments. Okay, if there's no commissioner comments, then we'll take a motion to approve one item, I think 2 items that are on there.
I move we accept the new business consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. City Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and the next and final item on the agenda tonight is a general agenda item, which is to consider allowing outside city connection to city water system for 2909 College Avenue.
Commissioners, Randy DeWitt, Assistant Director for Utilities.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. As the Mayor said, we have a consideration for a request for city services, for city water services, for the property that's located outside of the city limits. So just general background information on the request. The property is located north of Marlette Avenue on College Avenue, between Sethchild Avenue and Tuttle Creek Boulevard. A little closer up map showing the property in relation to the Avenue and Marlette Avenue. So the property in blue is the property that's making the request. On the east side of College Avenue is a 6-inch city water line that will be able to serve the property. That water line currently only serves K-State, the livestock units. Simple background on the request. So the owner is Timothy and Patricia Thomas. Existing property has 1 single-family residential structure, and the request is for water services only. I wanted to also provide a little background on these requests in general and what goes into them. These are pretty much template agreements that we have for these outside city service requests. They're all essentially the same. Usually, traditionally, these have been a consent agenda item because they're relatively routine. They all contain provisions that require the owner to follow all city ordinances regarding water use or the discharge of sanitary sewer or discharge of wastewater to the sanitary sewer system. They all contain provisions that require the owners to pay surcharges on their system development charges and their monthly water and sewer fees. So for the water side, it's double, and for the wastewater side, it's 1.5 times. And they all include provisions that require the owner to essentially consent to annexation should the city ever have the desire or the need to annex the property. They also agree not to petition the annexation of any property located within 200 feet of the subject property. So the reason we're here today as a general agenda discussion item is because last year city staff got together and decided that traditionally this was a request that we would get, and city staff would generally just look at whether or not we had the infrastructure to serve the property. If we did, we would generally recommend, yes, let's provide service for the property. And like I said, it was a pretty general consent item, not a lot of discussion. We decided that we wanted to have a more thorough review of these requests, even looked at adapting or establishing a policy to help us make our decision as whether or not we would request that we approve or recommend that we approve the connection or recommend that we deny it and require annexation. So city staff developed a list of, right now it's 16 criteria that we review. Much of them are criteria that Public Works considers. This is a list of the 7 items that we look at. There are also some community development considerations that we review, and we can talk about these in a little bit more detail if you'd like. And then there's some considerations for the fire department and the risk reduction department that we look at. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I forgot to mention that one of the new requirements of these agreements is that any new structures being built on the property also meet city building codes. So that was new as of last year. The reason that we wanted to go through this more thorough process is because we started to see some outside city properties requesting services where development had occurred around it, and maybe somebody was proposing a use that didn't meet the criteria that we wanted for it. So a lot of that comes into what we consider, what community development considers is if the use proposed meets the zoning requirements, or if it's consistent with the urban area comprehensive plan. For Public Works, we look at whether or not they already have one of those other services. We look at if there's any special characteristic in their waste for as far as what they're going to discharge to the sewer system, or if they're a high demand water user. So that in general is why we are bringing these to you guys, to the commission as a general agenda item for more discussion. This particular request is pretty straightforward. So after we went through these criteria, the city staff recommended that we allow the connections without requiring annexation. A little bit more background on these considerations. At this time, these are just discussion points for city staff. There is no set number of these criteria that we look at to say, if we say yes to half of these, then that means we're going to require annexation or not require annexation. So at some point in the future, we will have a policy that has a more, rigid guideline for making that recommendation. But for now, this is what we have, and this is the recommendation we've made for this particular request. So with that, I'll turn it over for any questions that you might have. Sorry I couldn't come up with something more interesting for your first meeting.
No, this is a good layup. It's nice. But so just in general, when I looked at this, it's not adjacent to any city limits or anything like that. Basically, this would just be, it's kind of easy enough just to give them the access to water. They'll pay a little bit more on their water bill. If we were to annex, then they would have to pay city property taxes and.
Correct.
But would we still then have to provide them sewer and things like that?
Not necessarily, but that is one of the considerations, the fact that this subdivision does not have access to public sewer, and we would prefer that if they did have both, we would typically look a little bit closer at annexing them. We don't really have a strong desire to annex a property that has a septic system, and in order to look at that more closely, we've had a lot of requests for city services in this neighborhood. We just don't have the means to provide it at this time. If there was a combined effort by either the subdivision, the owners to come to the city to put together a benefit district of some sort, we certainly would look at it. They would have to fund the construction of that infrastructure if we wanted to do something like that. But right now, since the city does not have the infrastructure there, nor do we really have the desire to fund that infrastructure for them, this is the best solution we have. And so for this property, this is one of the very few properties within that subdivision that actually has access to city infrastructure. So we can't really find a great reason to stick our necks out there and say, no, we shouldn't provide it.
And then you said any future building that they do on the property will have to meet city code?
Absolutely. And then additionally, within those agreements, any future building, they have to come back to us for written permission as well. So if they wanted to put another building and extend water service to it, we'd have to come back and amend this agreement to allow it.
But that doesn't include like remodel or anything like that of the existing
Not
structure?
necessarily. If the use is going to remain the same, yeah. And that gives us another reason, if they wanted to change the zoning or something like that, that didn't meet the comprehensive plan or zoning regs, we'd probably withdraw that, wouldn't allow it.
Right. Thank you.
So they've got adequate space for a septic system?
It would appear so, yeah. But then again, that's the county's decision. We don't typically regulate a septic system.
But if they tried to put another house on the property, they wouldn't have probably.
Not necessarily.
Because we ran into that with that nearby group that we annexed off of Browning.
Sargent.
Yeah, Sargent Edition, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, that would take a bigger effort with a combination of city staff or county staff working together to resolve that issue.
Is there any public comment on this particular item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comments. I want to say that's a great criterion list you came up with there, a good way to analyze that, because we do quite a few of those, so I appreciate that. I'm not so sure we want to have a matrix that says, this many right or wrong. I think just evaluating that for each one is probably sufficient, and then make a judgment based on each individual property, as opposed to say you need 7 yeses in order for it to qualify. But that's my only thought on that.
Thank you.
So any other commissioner comments? Okay, well, on that note, I guess we can entertain a motion.
I'll move that we authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Timothy E. Thomas and Patricia C. Thomas for outside city limits water system connection for the property located at 2909 College Avenue, Manhattan, Kansas, Riley County.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. City clerk, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, that concludes the final item on the agenda. Only a 47-minute meeting, still not as good as what Mark did. He had a 17-minute meeting one time. But on that note, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I'll move to adjourn the January 2nd, 2024 City Commission meeting.
And I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. City clerk, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Butler,
Yes?
Commissioner Adamczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Opelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. On that note, the meeting is adjourned.